Hello everyone, this is Akhier, and we are back in the SCP Foundation. And today we have rolled back around to doing one of the favorites. And today is a particular favorite, a very popular one that not only is popular in general, but also has shown up in quite a few of the various fan-made SCP games. So, hey, that's fun. I will note, if you want to suggest an SCP for me to read, please do so below. That would be much appreciated, because while I do know a good number of the top-rated ones that I consider would be a fun read, I am not all-knowing. So yeah, especially if it's newer ones. Let's see, make sure I'm on the screen. Oh, and I also, it's going to make a noise like that. I have a new device that I just got. A new wireless controller, because the old one I had a stick drift to a degree that really sucked. And this is going to help me scroll. Which you'd think not enough space. My mouse, but right now, my mouse, the scroll wheel is a little messed up. So, got a controller. 8-bit do. Fun stuff. Just got it. Like I said, previous one, bit of stick drift. And by a bit of stick drift, I mean once it's on, the mouse will not stay still. So, had to get a new one. Only $30, and it's got the HE sticks, Hall Effect sticks. Anyway, we are doing 914, SCP-914, the Clockworks. The name was not familiar to me at first, but once we start describing it, a lot of people will recognize it. I see, I didn't move the little thing there, gesturing with this. Okay. Yeah, trying to mouse around is nearly pointless. I need to figure out how to adjust the sensitivity of the stick. Anyway, SCP-914. Object class, safe. I think that's actually the first safe one I've done. Could be not. Oh, and got a little picture over up here. One of the least complex sections of SCP 914 in non-active state. Special containment procedures. Only personnel who submit a formal request and receive approval from Site Command may operate 914. SCP 914 is to be kept in Research Cell 108-B with 2 guard personnel on duty at all times. Any researcher entering 109-B are to be accompanied by at least 1 guard for the entirety of testing. A full list of tests to be carried out must be given to all guard personnel on duty. Any deviation from this list will result in termination of testing, forcible removal of personnel from 109-B, and formal discipline at Site Command's discretion. Warning: at this time, no testing of biological matter is allowed. Referred to document 109-B 117. Applying the rough setting to explosive materials is not advised. And some of you just hearing that the rough setting already know which skip we are doing. Description: SCP 914 is a large clockwork device weighing several tons and covering an area of 18 square meters, consisting of screw drives, belts, pulleys, gears, springs, and other clockworks. It is incredibly complex, consisting over 8 million moving parts, comprised mostly of tin and copper, with some wooden cloth items observed. Observation and probing have showed no electronic assemblies or any form of power other than the main spring under the selection panel. 2 large booths, 9 meters by 2.1 meters by 2.1 meters, or, if you prefer in Eagle units, 10 foot by 7 foot by 7 foot, are connected via copper tubes to the main body of SCP 914, labeled intake and outtake, or output. Intake and outtake. This is an outtake, except I don't do much editing on these, so it's just a regular take. And output. Between them is a copper panel with a large knob with a small arrow attached. The words rough, coarse, 1-to-1, fine, and very fine are positioned at points around the knob. Below the knob is a large key that winds the mainspring. Lots of quotation marks. When an object is placed in the intake booth, a door slides shut and a small bell sounds. If the knob is turned to any position and the key wound, SCP 914 will refine the object in the booth. No energy is lost in the process, and the object appears to be in stasis until output booth door is opened. Intense observation and testing have not shown how SCP 914 accomplishes this, and no test object has ever been observed inside SCP 914 during the refining process. The process takes between 5 and 10 minutes, depending on the size of the object being refined. Addendum 514, Dr. Blank Test Log. Input, 1 kilogram of steel, setting rough. Output, a pile of steel chunks of various sizes appearing to be cut by laser. That's interesting. 1 kilogram of steel, 1-to-1. A kilogram of steel screws. Interesting. A kilogram of steel, setting fine. A kilogram of steel carpet tacks. A kilogram of steel, setting very fine. The output is several gases that dissipated into the air quickly, and 1 gram of an unknown metal, resistant to heat of 50,000 degrees, impossible to bend or break with any force, and a near perfect 1.6 times 10 to the negative 75th P conductor of electricity. Very fine. Indeed. 1 wristwatch belonging to Dr. Blank. On course setting. Output, a completely disassembled wristwatch. 1 cell phone belonging to Blank. 1-to-1. 1 cell phone, although of a different make and model. I will note, if you haven't noticed already, I am being a bit looser with the wording on this. It would be a bit boring to just be like, input, 1 cell phone, blah-de-blah. Output, 1 cell phone, blah-de-blah-de-blah. And you get the general idea. Anyway, going in, a standard Colt Python revolver. Setting, very fine. Output, data expunged. Aforementioned Blank completely disintegrated all matter in its line of fire. Object contained with high density gamma waves. Input. And you'll note, this is before the testing procedure or the testing thing where it's like no biological matter. So, a 1 white mouse with a setting of 1-to-1. The output, a brown mouse. Input, a chimp on setting fine. Output, data expunged. Input, a chimp setting rough this time. The output, a badly mutilated corpse, showing signs of crushing and cutting with high heat. Exciting. Document number 109-B-117, Dr. Blank and Dr. Blank Test Log. Subject D186, male Caucasian, 42 years old, 108 kilograms, 185 centimeters tall, setting 1-to-1. Output, male Hispanic, 42 years old, 100 kilograms, 188 centimeters tall. Subject was very confused and agitated. Subject attacked security personnel. Subject terminated. Subject D187, male Caucasian, 28 years old, 63 kilograms, 173 centimeters tall. Setting, very fine. Output, data expunged. Subject escapes from testing chamber, killing 8 guards as well as Dr. Blank and Dr. Blank. Lockdown initiated. Subject causes containment failure of 3 SCP areas in continued escape attempt. Special response team engages subject, resulting in severe wounding of subject, partial memory loss in special response team members, and corrosive damage to plumbing. Subject expired several hours later, dissolving into blue ash and blinding nearby research team. Biological testing with skip 914 discontinued. Note, because of the nature of this skip, a wide range of test data would be helpful. Dr. Gears has ordered that any researcher can have access for non-biological testing if they themselves or they are supervised by a level 3 researcher. All testing is to be conducted in file number 914-E, experiment log 914. Biological testing will continue only with prior clearance of O5 command. As long as you want to try something mundane that isn't alive, feel free to accumulate data. Dr. Blank. And this is where it seems like a short one, but then we open the experiment logs here. And, yeah. Site 19, Facility 23 Dossier. Basic information. Founded 12th of December, 1988. Location, redacted, USA. Cover story, redacted, government warehouse. Function, skip 914 containment and research. Anomalous item containment, size, area of 0.025 square kilometers. Personnel, facility director, Dr. Arthur Hackett. Director research, Dr. Jan Query. Director of containment, Dr. Marissa Norwood. Security chief, Agent Alan Sedna. Head of Human Resources, Dr. Lucius Veritas. Administrative personnel, 18. Maintenance personnel, 21. Research personnel, 47. D-class personnel, 25. Don't need as many because you aren't throwing them in the machine anymore. Other, 5. And here's the facility plan. The Site 14 facility, 23 facility location in redacted, is a facility built specifically to contain skip 914 and its anomalous products. It is part of a larger Site 19 administration. We've got 1, parking lot, 2, the cafeteria, 3, food storage and kitchen, 4, the maintenance personnel office, 5 is the break room right there, 6 is personal residence floor 1, and then floor 2 is more on 7. Number 8 is research personnel office. 9, multi-purpose rooms, interesting. 10 is administrative personnel office. 11 is the research cell 109-B. And then 12 is waste management and incinerator right across. So, yeah, you gotta incinerate some things. 13 here is research cell 109-A. 14, preliminary testing room. And finally, 15, the D-class personnel. Click to enlarge. I don't think we need to enlarge it that much. Details. Oh, this is just details of it. Parking lot. It's a parking lot. Design allows minimal visibility while transporting anomalous goods. That's good for them. Cafeteria, storage, maintenance. That's where janitorial staff and whatnot. Oh, here's fun. There's a date involved. Break room used by staff as a place to rest while not working. Due to an incident on 10/04/2019, the break room is slightly larger on the inside. Fun. Only slightly, though. Of all the places, the break room is a pretty good place to do so. Personal residence, a 2-story section for on-site residents of non-D-class personnel. Individual rooms and structures are not shown. Research personnel offices, multi-purpose. Used for meetings, presentations, and conferences. It's just office space. It's not multi-purpose. It's we're having people meet in here, and we have different words for it, so it's multi-purpose. And then the research cell 109-B, which is the place containing SCP 914. The floor is slightly elevated and plated with steel in order to ground SCP 914 for protection against damage caused by static shock. The incinerator, a room containing an incinerator, used for destruction of classified information. Incinerator is occasionally used for destruction of items produced by SCP 914. The room also functions as a waste management center. What is the... It was actually going to tell me when I moused over it. That's nice. Under circumstances specified in Section 3 of the SCP Foundation Policy on Handling of Anomalous Phenomena and Ethics Committee Ruling 10A-0344, retroactive justification for unauthorized neutralization of the anomalies. Is that just all it says? Huh. Oh yeah, that is all it says. There we go. Preliminary testing room. A laboratory used for preliminary testing of anomalous products, which there will be quite a few of. Additional information. Site 19, Facility 23, located in Redacted, is a facility built specifically to contain SCP 914 and its anomalous products. It is a part of the larger Site 19 administration. Facility 23 was originally built in 1988 as an isolated containment facility for multiple large anomalous items. Following anomalous item A blank reclassification as SCP 914 in 2008, it was moved in Facility 23, and the facility was converted into a research establishment for the purpose of SCP 914's research. Dr. Charles Gear, former director of Euclid-level containment at Site 19, was transferred to Facility 23 to oversee its research. Testing of SCP 914 began on September 9th of that year. During April 2017, Facility 23 was expanded and partly rebuilt to accommodate the increasing number of researchers and the large amount of test products accumulated over the years. Dr. Arthur Hackett and Dr. Lucius Veritas were transferred to Facility 23 to replace Dr. Charles Gear as Director of Administration and Research, respectively. As of 30/05/2026, Facility 23 has conducted over blank individual tests on SCP 914. A log of all tests that were conducted can be accessed below. There's a lot. I'm probably not going to read them all, because there's a few, but I'm going to read some of them. But yeah, this is not only popular, but as you might have noticed, it is a continually expanding thing. And, okay, I'm going to read this first because it has to deal with the maintenance of this page. We've got the original article by Dr. Gears. Read it for the general information. Experiment log sandbox. This is the experiment log sandbox. Anyone can post their log entries here, and the moderators will approve the good ones and add them to the main site experiment logs. For more information on what gets pruned, see the official guidelines below. You can also add out-of-universe comments and get your entries reviewed by the users. So this is where you continue adding to it. This is official guidelines, and actually I think I'm going to go there first just to get a few for this. And frequently asked questions. This is supplementary to read if you're new. We recommend reading the guide before this. I'm out of facts to give. 914 is undoubtedly one of the most infamous articles on the wiki, and due to its nature, there are a lot of things you could do with it, which is why we have an extensive experiment log dedicated to just shoving shit through 914. Because of this nature, people ask loads of questions about it. Seriously, if I had a nickel every time somebody asked, what happens if we put 682 through 914? Now, I'm sure that's very much one that I'm going to get to, but I'm going to note it down on my list over here of specifically noted in other things, SCPs, just so I keep track of that. I'd actually be able to afford to go to college, and I live in America, which is impressive. College is expensive. But for those that don't have the time or reading comprehension to get through almost 2,000 at the time of writing this, individual tests, or have read the experiment logs and are still confused, I compose this page of frequently asked questions regarding 914. Disclaimer, I'm not an actual authority on how 914 functions. I'm just a writer who's been working in the experiment logs for a while, and I made sure to do extra research while compiling this document, so I'd like to think I know my stuff, but ultimately, I'm not the one who's responsible for deciding the rules. Where did it come from? No definitive answer. There is a tale written by Gears himself detailing a possible origin story for 914, which can be read there, but Gears himself states that it is in no way meant to be canon, which is interesting, actually. Let's see how big that is. Because I predict this is going to already be a relatively large... That's not the worst. How does it work? Mystery. Is it sentient? Out of universe, we are aware that it isn't actually sentient, so there's no point in trying to argue that. In universe, on the other hand, it is still highly disputed and perhaps will continue to be indefinitely. So, authorial intent, not sentient. In universe, the way testing goes, people are like, ooh, pattern, it must be sentient. And other people are, no, it can't be. Why doesn't the Foundation just put all their armor and weapons through 914 on Verifine to give themselves super equipment? First of all, this is one of the things I will constantly beat home about because it's something I love about the Skip Foundation. Unless the article in which you are reading specifically calls out another skip as being canon to that skip's universe, it is not canon. 914 may not exist in any other universe except the very specific one where it's made. And in fact, even though this calls out 682, that's in this supplementary stuff and not the actual 914 article. Technically, you could even see all these experiment logs as being non-canon to the main article, because the article has its own list of things, and that's its own stuff. Whereas this extra log of experiments could be seen as something that you don't even have to take as a gospel, because it is not on the main article or directly connected, though it is sort of directly connected, so it depends on how purist you want to be. I would say that it is canon, especially since it is so curated. However, anything beyond that would not be. Honestly, I'm pretty sure that the people maintaining this do consider this all the actual experiment logs canon, and I think that's a pretty safe thing to do. But trying to say this skip would be in the same universe, that is, unless it's specifically called out as being in the universe, iffy. Because 914, anyway, the answer for the why it is, once you approve of the fact that it is in the universe where you were talking about. Because 914 doesn't actually work like that. It is not keen on just directly improving all of its inputs with no drawbacks whatsoever. Rather, it is a snarky little shit, and its idea of refining things usually just means making them more complex or abstract without necessarily improving them. This, combined with how unpredictable 914 can be, means that it is prone to producing output that might do us more harm than good. So testing already dangerous objects with 914 is highly discouraged. And this is one of those things where it's like, is it sapient? And it's like, well, we know it's not as people reading the story. However, even here, it's like, that's a snarky little shit. So you can see why in universe they might have questions. Why doesn't the Foundation destroy dangerous skips by putting them through 914 on rough? Several reasons come to mind immediately. Some skips, such as 682 or 96, would be too dangerous. Ooh, 96 specifically mentioned. This is honestly just like, I'm not going to count the ones, any that might be mentioned in the experiment logs, unless I particularly, but I'm half-adding these just because they're favorites to read later. Would be too dangerous to transport to the location. We also don't know for sure that it would destroy them. There's a test in the experiment log where someone attempts to put an anomalous mug cat through 914 on rough at least 50 times, and it didn't even put a dent in it. So it's evident that destruction is not guaranteed through the rough setting. It is simply too risky. Apparently, if I have it over there, it doesn't like doing what I want. No, it might just be I have that in focus. Yeah, okay, there we go. What happens if we put the 682 through on very fine? This is explored in the tale. It had all been for nothing. Another tale to read. Obviously, this is a joke, but if I'm being honest here, I don't really think this question is worth pondering. The obvious answer is that you'll most likely get a creature that is even more unstoppable and will wind up destroying all of humanity, and we can probably just leave it at that. What happens if we put 99 through 914 on very fine? The closest we've come to answering this one is one of the very, very early tests, 196 specifically, in which amounts of 999 slime, not 999 itself, are put through 914, which you can read here. You probably will. What happens if we put insert any SCP through it? Please, stop. Most likely there is literally no way to answer this question because 914 is an unpredictable and cheeky little shit. Once again, referring to it in a way that humanizes it. But it's not. And there are impossibly infinite choices as to what it might do to any input, skip or otherwise. Since it's now forbidden to test skips with 914 without O5 approval, it is unlikely that your question will ever be answered definitively in the logs. So please leave it to your speculation and let the rest of us focus on more important matters. Basically, everyone's asked for every skip at some point in time. Please stop. Please. What happens if we put food through? Most food isn't allowed through because biological testing is banned, and the majority of food is biological. The exception is made for foods that are not made with cell matter. Some examples include milk, primarily made from water and lactose. Butter and cream is also fine. Cooking oil, purely a form of fat, and pure sugar. Some foods that would not be allowed include the following: meat, produce, and fungi. Cell matter. Duh. Anything made with flour, since it's made from grains, which are plants. Cheese and yogurt, curdled using bacteria. A huge no-no. Keep in mind that some ingredients produced from cellular life forms, such as aforementioned oil and sugar, are fine, because they are chemicals and do not themselves contain cell matter. Wait, what counts as biological testing? Just a second, I need to check on. Okay, that's fine. Biological testing bans you from testing with organisms, dead or alive, including microscopic ones. Yeah, think if you get the wrong bacteria, or any bacteria, honestly, with how the output is, through on very fine. That would be disastrous. Generally, if it's a life form made of cells, it probably won't pass. The exception would be materials like wood, leather, or coal, since these are far removed enough from their original biological properties that they do not pose nearly as much risk anymore. Like with testing skips, you can technically test biological matter if you get approval from O5, but you must have an extremely good reason for doing so, and your test will be held to a much, much higher standard quality. For this reason, it is not a good idea to attempt a biological test until you're very experienced with writing 914. Basically, you can. We're not going to stop you. We're just not going to include them in the official logs because most of them aren't going to be up to the writing standard that is required for something like that. What happens if we put literally anything else through 914? Chances are somebody has already tried it on 914 experiment logs. In the case it has not been tried in the experiment logs, if that object is not an SCP, not an explosive, and otherwise just not a stupid idea to test with, I highly recommend that you actually try to come up with an answer to your own question. Write a test about it and submit it to the 914 sandbox. The answers to what happens if we put so-and-so through 914 don't pop out of nowhere. The writers come up with them and make them happen. Once you stop asking other people to give you the answer and realize that you can just come up with something yourself, the sky becomes the limit. Basically, don't ask us to tell you what happens. Look first. There's a big log of tests already done. Look through that. Look through the test logs as well, because someone might have already written one that did not get accepted. That does not mean write it. That means if you are going to write it, have it be better quality. And, yeah. Hold on a second. I saw a test in the experiment log that tests with banned things. Why were those allowed? The experiment log used to have a much lower degree of quality control in the past, so many older tests break the rules that we've set in place today. Basically, before it became such a big thing, people were like, oh, what if we throw a cat at it? And then we get what happened. Also, as previously stated above, if you come up with a test and you do good, well, not the skips and the other stuff, but like, if you come up with like a biological test with a very good reason for it, it sounds like they might be not tempted to, but they'll at least look at what you wrote. I want to write a test with insert object here. Has anyone already done a test with the object? Go find out. Read. You're interested in this, go read. Maybe or maybe not. The fact is, it doesn't actually matter if you use the same input as an existing test. What matters is that your outputs are different, and due to the near infinite range of possibilities you could write, they almost certainly will be. So please, don't worry if an input has already been done. You are still free to Control F your way through the experiment logs to see if your idea has already been done, but generally I would not worry. Though, yeah, I stick with my original, you should check the logs. Maybe not to, like, see whether you do an object, but rather just to see what's there. At least it will give you a better idea of how to write these logs. Especially read some of the newer ones just to get the general level of quality they are expecting. How do we decide what gets put in anomalous storage given into a researcher possession, added to the break room, or incinerated? Anomalous storage. We need a good reason to have an item be kept in anomalous storage. We keep an output because it is worthy of further study, and because it's actually safe enough to keep. We won't keep anything that would be dangerous to hold on to, and we won't keep something just because it happens to be anomalous, especially if there's not really anything we can glean from it. Addition from Liveritis. It can also be appropriate to store something when attempting to destroy it can be hazardous. For example, say that 914 will output a box containing a micro-singularity. It's probably not smart to throw it in the furnace. It might collapse immediately, but it also might not. Given to somebody in a break room. This occurrence should be rare, and for good reason, especially in cases of fine and very fine outputs. An output that seems safe to keep might actually be a dangerous property that has not been discovered while it was initially being tested. So keeping it in open space with no protection whatsoever is hazardous. One-to-one outputs are usually safe, but it's very unprofessional to request to keep an output just because you think it looks cool. Fine outputs might be useful, but also pose the aforementioned risk, so they have to be very thoroughly vetted before they can be approved. On the other hand, assume that all very fine outputs are completely off the table. regardless of how safe or useful they may seem. Incinerated. We can assume that most outputs are disposed of or incinerated, not necessarily because they're dangerous, but because we don't really have any use for them. Of course, we will prioritize incinerating dangerous objects. It does not matter if said object has a property that might be useful to research. The safety of our personnel is more important than studying an output. That's generally not how the Skip Foundation does things. However, the reality of this specific skip is the fact that you can literally just throw stuff at it all day and get like thousands of anomalous objects, which it's impractical. You can't just be like, this is skip 2,000,000,005 because we just kept throwing rocks at it on very fine to see what would happen to each rock. Keep in mind that it's not actually necessary to state what we decide to do with an output. More often than not, you won't mention whether we decide to incinerate or store something, unless it's specifically important to say so. If you are not sure what to do with an output, feel free to leave an OOC, out of character, note in the sandbox or ask in our Discord server. You can also leave it as is, and the moderator will make any necessary adjustments when your test gets ported. Where is it located? It's contained in Site 19, Facility 23. Now don't let the site name fool you. Facility 1923 is an entirely separate building from the main Site 19, and it is implied to be far away. It is a relatively small facility, while lots of anomalous objects outputted by 914 are stored here, and there are also unexplained locations in the vicinity. 914 is the only skip at this site. Are we? Experiment logs. Here's the guidelines. I hope you don't mind me reading these. I find them interesting. It does not create or destroy matter, nor does it change anything on the atomic level. That's important to note. Example wrong. A silver tablespoon. An ornate gold-plated cutlery. Nope. It is, of course, an anomalous object. However, it isn't what it isn't, however, is magic. It builds with what it has and isn't capable of transfiguration. Despite it being an anomalous object, conservation of mass still applies. The law implies that mass can neither be created nor destroyed, although it may be rearranged in space, or the entities associated with it may be changed in form. Example, right. 1 security clearance for level 5. 1 master credit card devoid of any number. Note, this is an example from the Containment Breach game. Like I said, this skip is in a lot of games because it's a very fun concept. Allows you to do a lot of moon logic for your point-and-click style stuff where it's like, well, I've got a security card. How do I get somewhere this doesn't cover? Feed it to 914. See what happens. Let me be clear on this. The game isn't canon in any way. But I'm using this because it's such a good example of what Skip 914 does. It can be argued that it's an improvement because it's a master card, right? It's also unusable because it's obviously forged and doesn't have any numbering. It is a cheeky little bugger. It's unpredictable and apparently kind of snarky. For this log, predictable is boring. If it's just nicely improving all input materials, that's out of character. I already talked a little bit about it earlier, so let's have an example. Wrong! 1 hard drive with 500 gigabytes of space. Fine. 1 solid state drive with 2 terabytes of space. As seen here, 914 just immediately improved whatever was tested. Not only is this out of character, it's also not very interesting. 914 would be fairly boring if it just made whatever you put in better every time, right? 914 similarly has a mind of its own, although as noted in the fact, no it doesn't. And its understanding of improvement is probably different from yours. 1 digital thermometer, very fine, an intricate instrument with several digital dials that can change when exposed to different temperatures and directions. The symbols do not correspond to any known mathematical object to count or measure. In other words, it definitely is an improvement, but it's also useless. We can't read what it measures. This is a subversion while still technically counting as an improvement. This is an example and therefore doesn't mean that all results have to be useless. In the end, it's about subverting expectations. Generally, you can get away with improving an item without anything else if the last setting surprises a reader or if the improvement is interesting on its own. Biological testing. Oh boy. So something that might not need clearing up is that testing with dead things is not technically forbidden. Something made from wood is fine, but a mouse, even a dead one, would have to be cleared. Why? Something biological that isn't defined as a complete organism, leather, wood coil, is less likely to become site-destroying undead cousin to Skip 3000. Biological I'm going to note down 3000 because it's a fun one. Or at least my memory is saying it's a fun one. Biological testing has to be clear, and that's because it's a very good reason to be forbidden. An in-universe researcher will not be responsible for setting the next 682 loose on humanity because his idiot intern, what was I trying to say? Wanted to see what happens if he puts his hamster in on very fine. In other words, testing with organisms poses a risk that usually won't be worth the payoff. Apart from the risk of testing itself, there are several reasons, caveats, why something will or won't be cleared, and almost all of them are subjective. As an aside, what researcher is going to bother with an overseer, the guy, to ask if he can use a potted plant in a test? It's like calling the CEO of Microsoft because you want permission to use the copying machine every time you want to use it. In other words, the test needs a good reason. The bottom line is that biological testing isn't against rules if you let it be cleared, but require being held to higher standards of quality and a reasonably low risk of creating something hazardous. Specific guidelines. Be creative, but don't make Foundation personnel look like idiots. Professional research personnel are required to act accordingly. If you want, you can make a note to say something along the lines of the researchers facing disciplinary action. Don't kill people, please. We're strict, not North Korea. That said, keep in mind that it won't be enough to compensate for someone cramming in a nuclear missile with a piece of 6A2s to see what happens. That's something that anyone working at the facility would find idiotic to try anyway. If I do make a note myself, I'll probably stick with Dr. Veritas because I'm extremely creative. If you add entries with spelling errors, grammatical errors, or you don't follow the format properly, I'll get cranky with you. Self-explanatory. Correcting all the stuff, he's not an error, don't do it. Using other skips, probably a bad plan. Same with biological testing. Tests that result in massive casualties. Literally just said don't kill the personnel. It's something prevented easily and make the Foundation look like irresponsible idiots. They can be irresponsible, but they're generally not idiots. Our armory is full. This will be useful. Let's store it in the armory. More subjective than other guidelines, but anomalous weaponry is overdone. Everyone wants to make the new Ray Pew Pew pistol gun. Wow. Don't. Everyone's done that. Forgive me for ranting a little, but Mr. In-Universe Researcher, are you out of your mind? You're going to add an anomalous weapon that was created by an unpredictable object in order to contain other skips? That is asking for trouble. Get out of my testing area before you blow the site sky high. If you try to add something anomalous to the armory, or add to your personal collection, you're probably going to be kicked out of the Foundation because we protect and contain things. We don't use a skip to create cool new boomsticks. Even if something seems useful and safe, that rifle that 914 made might create a black hole on its 987th shot. Bad idea. About the author and additional notes on pruning. Are you an authority? I'm the closest thing to authority outside of Dr. Gears' sight himself. They're a moderator, but don't have any power that another moderator administrator doesn't have. That being said, they do oversee what gets added and what doesn't, not because of no other moderator is allowed to, but because they're the ones that's crazy enough to oversee 1,800 plus tests. At time of writing. There's a lot of these. The quality control largely contributed to the law growing this large. Do I have to ask you or anyone else permission to add something to the sandbox? Please don't. You're free to add. That's what collaboration tag means. He's not a gatekeeper, and while they do quality control, the sandbox is a sandbox for a reason. Exceptions? Sure, but your entry better be pretty damn good. It shares this trait with cliché skip concepts. If you write it well enough, it would be a shame to remove it. Do I use the number system or not? While the number notation saw a lot of use in the past, it's not something that really needs to be used unless there's a strong need for the number to be accurately read. Drug dosages, for instances. Otherwise, it's just taking up space. Short answer, no. Can I edit out entries on the sandbox that I think are bad myself? No. That's the job for staff. You don't get to decide what's good or not. That's not your job. Apparently you can correct spelling and formatting, but removal, don't do it. What if I don't agree with my entry being removed? You can ask them for clarification, but they do have notes apparently. If you still disagree, contact contact another staff. That feels a little too. Mom, Dad said no. Can I do it? Or you don't tell them. It's like, oh, Dad, you said no? Hey, Mom, can I do the thing? But yeah, if multiple staff agree with pruning, it's probably valid. You already did. Feel free to add proposed tests. And yeah, okay, so that's fun. Am I going to read Clockwork Time? It's not canon, and it's pretty long. I think we're better served with getting it on with the actual research logs. How am I going to do this? I'm going to open one. I want to... Okay, yeah, and it does do the continued thing. Okay. Yes. Note to all researchers, please include your name on all records along with the date and total number of items refined. Researchers are responsible for all output. Should damage or loss of life occur, the researcher will be subject to administrative review and possible disciplinary action. Biological testing has been suspended. Any biological test must be cleared. Itchy nose. Actually, while I'm taking a little break here. Water break. Stay hydrated. And then here's the journal format. Name, date, total items, input, setting, output. I'm not going to read the test numbers. That's I'm going to prune how the things are a little bit. With approval from O5 command, a single gear was removed from one of the outer sections of 914. Placement was carefully documented and was in a location that would not release tension on any belts or damage any documented sections. Testing area was cleared and sealed after placing a steel block in the intake booth. A D personnel was dispatched to 914 and instructed to turn the key and activate 914. The D personnel reported that the key won't catch. The key was observed to turn several times without tightening the main spring. No activity of any kind was observed from the skip during this time. Missing gear was replaced with an identical copy comprised of the same metal, brass, as the original. Steel block reinserted into the intake booth, and 914 was activated on the 1-to-1 setting. 914 observed to operate normally with a slight pause of 3.5 seconds after winding the key. After refining output, observed to be a solid steel sphere with the same volume as the original steel block. Original gear returned to 914. Note, well, thank God we can at least repair the damn thing if we damage it, assuming we can find what's broken in it. Hell, maybe it's already broken. I don't know. This damn thing hurts my head. Dr. Blank. Then we've got a few here by Dr. Gears. 4 pocket watches belonging to Dr. Gears. 1 gold-plated pocket watch. On fine. A small clockwork bird. When the tail is pressed, it produces a robin call. Once again on fine. A toy clockwork train engine. Another on fine. Miniature grandfather clock. Fully functional. That's pretty cool. And once again, fine. Small metal sculpture of a piano. Was the piano working? I don't see why it wouldn't. Would be interesting. Note, it appears there is a high level of randomness when 914 refines an object. However, it seems to preserve some elements of its original composition. In this example, Clockworks. This is not a law, but a high probability. Refine a metal bar, and you're more likely to get a simple metal object than an internal combustion engine. Both, however, are possible. Dr. Gears. 3 copies of all documentations, photographs, and test logs accumulated in relation to 914. This seems a little dangerous. 1-to-1. A folder containing all previous entered documents arranged in chronological order. Unpredictable, but useful. On fine. A hardbound book containing 400 pages. No diagrams, photos, or other visual aids of any kind are included. The pages appear to be solid black, but microscopic examination shows each page to be covered in approximately 20,000 characters. The text has no correlation with any known writing style and is not in a linear format, with sentences constructed from individual characters spread out between many pages. Each sentence requires an exceedingly complex formula to decode, with each formula unique to each sentence. Note, current decoding work has resulted in 2 partially translated sentences after 225 work hours. Item appears to be a record of the internal structure of 914. And then, very fine. A single sheet of paper, weight is exactly the same as the entire documentation. The sheet appears to be a single page from the entered 914 documentation. However, when flipped over to the right, the reverse side is the following page in sequence. When flipped over to the left, the opposite side is the preceding page in sequence. No new documentation is included, but this item is significantly easier to store, if more time-consuming to browse. Note, it's screwing with us. You know that, right? I don't care if it's been proven that it has no self-awareness. This thing is laughing at us. General Blank. Note, there seems to be some difficulty as to the meaning of fine and coarse on the settings. The machine appears to be capable of refining input based either on scale complexity, loss of entropy accompanied by increasing connectivity between components, and or acquisition of subjective meaning, or of simplification, separation into composite materials, and loss of meaning. Dr. Gear. Ooh, new doctor. Dr. Grangan. 5 adult male cadavers, which nowadays would not be allowed. Rough setting. A pile of human remains, limbs, organs, and bones all appear to be roughly separated via tearing action in high heat. Output is described as unsettling. Another cadaver on rough. Pile of human remains, all organs and bones have been removed by some form of cutting tool. The skin, nervous system, digestive system, and circulatory system all appear to have been removed without severing or damaging any tissue involved. Results frozen for study. That is interesting. 1-to-1. An Asian male cadaver. Original cadaver was identified as Caucasian. Fine. 1 cadaver containing 08. I am not going to note that one down. I think anything's in these tests, unless I specifically remember the number as being interesting, I won't be noting. Very fine. Green slime. Properties in chemical structures determined to be identical to 447-2. And cadavers may no longer be tested in order to minimize the possibility of 4472 coming in contact with dead bodies. 1 pill of 500. Okay, right after I said it, I'm going to note down 500. Honestly, this entire entry on the Excel sheet I have is going to just be like, here's another SCP to look into for the faves. 1 pill, fine. 1 ornate metal locket, now classified as 427. 2 identical wooden cross pendants. Rough setting. Fragments of wood of the same mass, cut flat on 3 sides. This may be a fragment of a larger cross. On the fine setting, 1 crucifix with intricate, detailed carvings of Jesus Christ. Note, this may imply that Skip 914 has an understanding of religion. More experiments with religious items are indicated. Note, this test may indicate that 914 understands the use of input objects and not simply their function. Recommended testing with medicines reliant on the placebo effect to ascertain if outputs provide actual medicinal solution to problems. So basically one, does it understand religion? And the other one, actually, does it understand the use? Which, I don't see where they're, or the function. Thinking about it, I don't see where this would, I guess, yeah, fair enough. Okay, never mind. $300 US. $100 US will be used for each setting. Of course, a puddle of ink and a small pile of cotton and plastic weighing roughly as much as the original. 1-to-1, 75 euros. Fine. A shareholder's note for soap from Corpse's products, worth $100. It is unknown whether 914 selected Foundation's front out of pure whimsy or because of some other criteria. Update, as a blankety-blank, soap from Corpse's products shares skyrocketed, and the aforementioned fine output is now worth blank USD. It is under investigation if 914 selected soap from Corpse's products because it knew was going to rally, or if it was a matter of pure luck. 5 bronze replicas of the Pioneer 10 and 11 plaques. Rough. Multiple bronze cubes and 2 bronze spheres. Coarse. 105 grams of copper and 15 grams of tin. 1-to-1. Several CDs. Tests reveal them to contain the same data as the Voyager Golden Records. That's fun. Fine. A record-sized bronze disc. Sorry about that. Disc. There's an S there, in case you missed it. Testing shows that using the object with a record player will play a record or a recording of a currently unidentified voice describing the content and meaning of the Pioneer plaque. Very fine. A bronze gyroscope 15 centimeters tall. A needle in the center continually points in one direction. Testing has confirmed that no matter the position of the gyroscope, the needle points towards our sun. That's fun. Oh, here's some more biological stuff. Dealing with ground beef. A pound of beef slurry. A pound of medium cooked round steak. A pile of jerky. Now we're on Virifine. 2 half-pound plank steaks. Well done. And lightly drizzled in gravy. Fun. And then very fine. Data expunged. Subject terminated with no casualties. Ooh, interesting. 5 IRS forms. And if you haven't noticed, On these where it's just going through the various settings, I'm not specifically mentioning the settings because I assume you're smart enough to realize it goes rough, coarse, 1-to-1, fine, very fine. Several hundred thin paper strips, or at least context clues should give away what it is. 1 block of wood, wet with strong-smelling liquid. Tests indicate the liquid to be composed of a variety of chemicals used in the paper-making process. Ooh, I like that one. 1 IRS form, 4868, blank. 1 IRS form, 1040, with all blank space, including margins and backs of pages filled with imprecations against the IRS and taxation in general in the following languages, in order quantity of text from greatest to least: Basque, Quenya, see below, Sumerian, Cherokee, an unidentifiable language with a writing system composed of curved signals, Classical Chinese, English, from the curses used apparently circa 1650 to 1750. After long study of the unidentifiable symbols by Dr. Blank, could identify no commonality with any other language present on the form. The Sumerian contained 3 words unattested from any known text. The Quenya had its cursing of the IRS interspersed with vituperation of someone or something called Morgoth. Very fine. 1 IRS form, MXL, filled out for the year 35 with the name given as Caesar. That. It's on screen. And all monetary amounts given in Roman numerals with the word denari entered afterwards. Yeah, I see how I'm going to handle this. 8.5 by 11 inch copies of Mona Lisa printed from a specific printer on photo paper. A pile of shredded photo paper, several pools of ink. 1 8.5 by 11 sheet of plastic. 1 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, several pools of ink. 1 size copy of the Vitruvian Man. 1 that size copy of Mona Lisa painted onto canvas. Testing revealed paint to be oil paint of modern origin. Fun. And on very fine, there's a 7 by 10 inch copy of Mona Lisa painted onto wooden panel, identified to be poplar. Paint samples tested to be oil paints made from beeswax, calcined bones, piled glass, and mineral pigments, with indication that pigments were hand ground. Further testing suggests painting dates to the early 16th century. Output now resides on a wall in Dr. Clopin's office. That's fun. 1 chessboard, initial setup. 1-to-1 setting. The chessboard with the white king's pawn moved up 2 spaces. Board as above, with black pawn moved to a legal position. 1 chessboard as above, with white queen moved diagonal to a legal position. Yes, I've been playing chess with 914. Yes, I'm aware it's probably non-sentient, but that hardly explains why it's winning. Ooh, back to this person, or I assume it's a similar person. Maybe it's a different one. Dr. C. Blank, whereas up here it is Dr. Clopine. Context clues, seeing as this is another painting, another print of painting, I would assume this is the same doctor. Who knows? Ooh, the recording's getting long. Just a bit more. Oh, and we're doing a bunch of 1-to-1s. The Le Trésor des Images by René Magritte. 1-to-1 output. 1 miniature pipe identical to that in the print with C'est un pipe engraved on it. Oh, I know what painting this is. Okay. 1-to-1 again. A near identical print with "This is not a pipe" printed in English in the same hand as in the original. On fine, a print of Les Deux Mystères by René. Very fine, a print of an untitled painting, later definitively confirmed by art experts to have been produced by René, despite there being no record of its existence. The painting predicts redacted, in addition to the lettres des images. Once again, very fine. A blank piece of paper with the mimetic property of inducing observers to believe that it is a pipe. The paper was accidentally destroyed by Dr. Blank, who placed it in his mouth and set it on fire. Dr. Blank was treated for minor burns to his face, but was otherwise not injured. 5 tuna sandwiches. A pile of wheat, a pile of yeast, a puddle of water, and one segment of twitching, bloodied flesh. Later identified as tuna musculature. A small loaf of bread and chunks of cooked tuna. One salmon sandwich on rye. One tuna sandwich. Tuna was later revealed to be of highest quality, with light, soft bread. Testing on a D-class personnel resulted in dramatic increased cognitive capacity. Further chemical analysis revealed it to contain unusually high levels of omega-3 and omega-7 fatty acids. One small loaf of bread baked into a very realistic shape of a tuna. When the door was opened, it immediately began swimming around the room and out the door. Subject presumed missing. This is a test cleared by the 05 for 939. Since we do not know which one that is, I have not done it. I'm going to skip past it. 8 copies of the King James Bible, presumably in relation to the fact that they wanted to test its knowledge of religion. Course, a sheet of leather, 1 block of wood of approximate dimensions 3/4 that of the Bible, 1 stack of ink-stained rags, 1 reel of thread. 1-to-1, a copy of the Quran. 1-to-1, hand illustrate copy of the Dead Sea Scrolls on new papyri. Fine, 1 book with leaden pages and a golden cover, language unknown. 1-to-1, a book labeled The Satanic Bible. That's fun. Fine, 1 DVD containing animated accounts of all the Bible stories. Fine, a statuette, human in form, quotes Bible passages at random, unless prompted either by book or by a short phrase from the Bible, in which case it continues from that point. Voices are appropriate to persons in Bible. Narrator is a neutral voice of ambiguous gender unless the book is attributed to a particular person, in which case voices is appropriate to that individual. Very fine. 1 book with seemingly infinite pages. Current count exceeds 2 million, containing copies of religious texts with commentaries and footnotes from all known religions in multiple different languages, plus some religious texts from currently unknown religions. 3 sheets of 8.5 by 11 inch printing paper with varying instructions. The paper with instructions: I would like a 1/4 pounder with cheese, no pickles, no onions, large order of fries, and a medium Pepsi. Handwritten in No. 2 pencil by the doctor. 1-to-1. Such and such sheet of paper with the words: I would like a Whopper, no ketchup, no mustard, small order of onion rings, and a medium Coke. Such and such, I would like a 1/4 pounder with cheese, no pickles, no onions, large order of fries, and a medium Pepsi. Handwritten with No. 2 pencil. On fine. A stack of U.S. counterfeit currency composed of standard paper and printed with No. 2 lead pencil. The currency totals to the exact cost of the requested order, plus tax. How kind. The sheet with the orders: I would like a 1/4 pounder with cheese, no pickles, no onions, large order of fries, and a medium Pepsi. Very fine. An 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper with a series of symbols inscribed upon it which do not correspond to any known system of writing. Subject viewing the symbols describe a sudden, intense desire for a cheeseburger. How fun. 1 of my screws. My screw, your screw. I'm assuming that's an SCP. Oh. I remember that one now. Or I think I do. The idea, I can't remember I think it was a toast. You look at it and you think you are it. So one of my screws, as in it is, I think I am the SCP. So having a screw from it would be, this is my screw setting, and the machine changes it to be, oh, it's one of your screws, which is interesting. One brand bouncy ball, cardboard label still attached. Fine. A ball carrying a cardboard label identified as a brand extra bouncy ball, behavior-wise identical to store-bought varieties. Once again on fine? Or, no, this is the extra bouncy ball, so I'm assuming they're just, okay, there was only one bouncy ball and they're just feeding it back in again. On fine setting again. One ball of smaller shape and differing color with a cardboard tag specifying it as a brand super duper bouncy ball. The manufacturer does not appear to produce this product. Testing reveals that the ball has a 0.blank% energy loss per bounce, making it extremely efficient. One super duper bouncy ball. Very fine. One ball that appears unchanged from the input. There is, however, a difference in its redacted properties, exhibited when dropped by Dr. Brown. Data expunged, 45 casualty, and reached escape velocity, currently thought to be orbiting Mars. Isn't that fun? One set photocopies and duplicates of lab notes and other research material on the skip. Fine. A large bound tome of that size with vellum pages, 256 vellum pages, with title written in gold leaf. Language of the title and the contents were at first unidentifiable and were later discovered to be an old dialect of Finnish, of all things. The contents are written in calligraphy, and more than half the pages are elaborately illuminated with colored inks in gold and silver leaf. Once translated, the contents proved to be identical to the contents of the inputted material, arranged chronologically. The tome has been radiocarbon dated to the early 11th century CE. Anachronistically, a leather pocket is sewn into the inside back cover, and this pocket contains what appears to be a modern compact disc, 10 centimeters in diameter. Data on this disc is encoded by an unknown codec. Attempts to divine the codec and decipher the data are ongoing. Note, it's a pity the contents of this tome are classified. It's a piece worthy of any museum. Words have started losing meaning. I've never seen such exquisite calligraphy. The illuminations may prove to be the most interesting part of the book, though. They often portray clockworks and related mechanical parts, as well as some of the input or output objects. Possibly they relate in direct rather than abstract ways to the operation of 914, as described in illuminated pages. Am I gonna do another one? I think what I'm going to do, because I'm over an hour recording, I'm going to skip to here, which only has a few test logs. I guess if you made it this far, you are interested in this specifically. If you like me to read a more long form, like specifically go back to this, read from the beginning, just all the test logs. And the stories attached to it too, I guess, if you want. Make a comment below. I won't promise it soon. I have another big reading project I want to do for the channel. It's going to take a while, honestly. But, yeah. I will likely get around to it at some point. I'm going to these new ones just because they will be following the more modern guidelines. So this will give us an idea of how this skip is being tested at this point. One mug. Broken, repaired. One mug gifted by a maintenance technician for continued performance. The mug was previously broken, repaired with epoxy, and broken again into pieces, 1-to-1. the same mug without any damage. Beside the mug was a small pile of epoxy arranged into a smiley face shape. Note, I broke a mug when transferring here. Let me try. And then we have his broken mug and repaired. The mug broken and repaired with epoxy. Mug was watertight at the time of the test. 1-to-1. A ceramic novelty salt shaker resembling a pig waiter. On closer inspection, all holes are clogged with epoxy resin. I don't understand. Why isn't it the same? I guess it's watertight at least. Yeah, that tends to happen. Whatever you expect of 914, it's likely to do something else. Personnel here hold the belief that the thing can develop affection towards people. Johnson gave it a much-needed tune-up a few years ago, and this is how it generally responds. Try different settings, but don't test the same object or settings too many times. Observations led some to believe it can get bored of doing the same thing over and over again. Try to figure out how it thinks. Trust me, I tried. 2 personnel that weren't there during the meeting. We introduced Dr. Query as a new director of research over the next few weeks. I'll still be around as head of human resources, and if you're sent to me, you screwed up enough that Dr. Query doesn't want to deal with you anymore. You don't want that situation. Veritas. An A4 size paper displaying the question, what are you? That's a good one. Mentioned above, fine. An identical A4 size blank paper that manifests the comprehensive biodata of an individual upon contact with the person's thumb as a projection on flat surfaces. This effect is transient, ceasing when the individual's thumb is no longer in contact with the paper. The displayed data vanishes upon removal of contact and appears solely upon subsequent physical interaction. I'm not sure what to do with this. Should it be stored or incinerated? Note, storing this could prove beneficial for obtaining accurate insights about any suspicious individual. I say we keep it. Storage. A smart device with civilian-created malware. Ooh, that's dangerous. Fine. Upon the output booth opening, all electronic devices within the immediate area immediately downloaded and installed an unknown form of malware that was unable to be removed by designated anti-malware site software. All devices affected in this way were scrapped, and their remains incinerated. Upon inspection, the output booth was revealed to contain a device that appears to be miniaturized with excess material found in the corner of the output booth. As a precaution, this was incinerated as well. Note, and this is why we don't play around with viruses. Of all kinds. Blueprints for the Foundation-made XO-1 prototype satellite. On fine. One blueprint of an unknown device. Said device bears slight similarities to NASA Voyager 1 probe. These include satellite dish, ultraviolet spectrometer, improved radio science system. 25% of the blueprint is written in a currently unidentified language. Translation is currently being attempted. A Zippo brand lighter. That sounds dangerous. On the fine setting, visually identical Zippo brand lighter, however the lighter's flame was completely resistant to conventional ways to put out fire. The only discovered way to extinguish flame was to simply close the lighter. I am requesting permission to keep the lighter for personal use. Denied. If the effect is the same when the lighter is actually an ice something, we're risking the entire place burning down. It's going to anomalous storage. Personnel file of the intern, 5 assorted Christmas green cards, 1 admission speech written by the intern. The personal file on 1-to-1. Personal file regarding a squirrel with wings. File structure is consistent with that of standard Foundation personnel documentation. Should I be insulted? Asked the intern. You're an intern. Assume away. The 5 Christmas green cards on fine. 1 paper model of a figure resembling Santa Claus, bludgeoning a snowman with a large bag. The admission speech on fine. 1 admission speech containing very small text. Speech consists of recounting of various failures from the intern's life and intern's happiness at being admitted into the failure show. Reading this file will cause the reader to remember every event featured on the speech. The intern reading this file will cause him to remember every... Requested incineration of this. No one needs to know my high school years, or really anything on this. Approved. We all have something we'd like to forget. Medical researcher. A handwritten note on a sticky note. It's a handwritten note on a sticky note. It's the repeating word that got me there. 1 fountain pen with black ink. 1 copy of the resident's medical records. 2 commercially available prosthetic legs. Hi, I just got transferred from Site 19 main campus. I just want to familiarize myself with 914. Also, not sure what the whole intro note thing is, but might as well. The note containing the following message. Hi, 914. Please don't make my job here too hard. I hope working with you will go well. And the aforementioned pen. 1-to-1. A note with seemingly incomprehensible scribbles and a fountain pen. One viewed by crossed out. Oh, anyone in the medical field. The note is misinterpreted. The note is interpreted as saying, "Take some penmanship lessons in near perfect clarity." Oh, very funny. It's making fun of doctor's handwriting. The doctor's medical records on fine. A cognitohazardous symbol that, when viewed, removes feeling of phantom limb pain in people suffering from it, but it causes it in a non-existent limb in all viewers who do not suffer from it. Incinerated. Fair enough. And then the 2 legs on 1-to-1. A high-tension spring made of carbon fiber attached to a sharp steel disc. When the output booth opened, it immediately fired, launching the disc at the retrieving D-class and causing the amputation of both legs below the knee. Well, looked like it hurt. What a hello. Is it strange I still want to test with it? Also, can that D-class see output number 2 before it's incinerated? Note, whoever I overheard in the break room saying, "It'd be funny to put this thing in a jack-in-box," please don't. 3 rocks, 3 sheets of paper, 3 pairs of scissors, and 1 copy of Pokemon Heart Gold. Aha! A rock, a paper, and the scissors. 1-to-1. Rock took the place of where the scissors were, scissors took the place of where the paper was, and the paper took the place where a rock was. 1 rock and 1 sheet of paper from previous output. Crushed rock fragments covered by a sheet of paper. 2 scissors. 2 scissors positioned as if trying to cut each other to no success. Rock, paper, and scissors. Fine. 1 small statuette of a fist carved in stone. 1 small statuette of a peace hand gesture made of metal. 1 impossibly complex small origami sculpture of a flat hand. Rock, paper, and scissors. Fine. 1 sculpture of an Ouroboros devouring itself, crafted in stone, metal, and paper. The copy of Pokemon Heart Gold. Very fine. 1 copy of Pokemon Heart Gold with all Pokemon up to Generation 9 available in the game, and Mega Evolution added. The in-game text is incomprehensible, otherwise completely playable. Note, it's the perfect Pokemon game. It brings tears to my eyes. I'll be spending the rest of my life playing this over and over after I get all the text back to English. Oh, Pokemon. Can I play it when you're done? Addendum. The game bricks the system it's playing on upon ejection. The game system emits strange audio when powered on and is otherwise non-functional. Output was confiscated after it was discovered that using it causes an addictive feeling of euphoria that made affected personnel experience withdrawal symptoms when not in use. Personnel that were affected have since made a full recovery. You wouldn't understand. It was perfect until it bricked my DS. Now my DS is making noise and have to turn it in for testing and buy a new one. I knew I should have just put it on fine. Dr. Shep. Congrats, Dr. Shep. You've made Lavender Syndrome real. Oh, hey, more Pokemon. Sapphire, Ruby, and Emerald. Note, after the previous incident, I'm not putting games on anything other than 1-to-1 settings. Ruby in Sapphire out. Sapphire in, ruby out. Emerald in, a copy of Pinoby. Note, it made sense to the last part. My guess is that Emerald not having a counterpart causes 914 to pick a different game entirely on the system. Pinoby, 1-1. Copy of Emerald. The save file has the trainer name 914 on it. 3 badges are collected and the run seems to be a Nuzlocke. Note, I need someone with more info on 914 to explain what happened here. Did 914 play the game or just make a save file to mess with me? Addendum. A Nuzlocke is a run where the Pokemon fang is considered a death and must be placed in a PC box. The player can only catch 1 Pokemon per route, the first encounter in a route, and they must be nicknamed. Skip 914 named them numerically. No other known special clauses are in effect for the run. Nuzlockes are a fun thing. I should try it. I've mostly watched them. 3 single beds, all equal sizes, each with a white pillow and white blanket. Assigned D-class personnel is diagnosed with sleep apnea and has been selected specifically for testing the output of this experiment. 1 bed, unmade, 1-1, fully made bed. The quality of bed making is simple. And the D-class personnel said no different. The bed fine on fine, or the bed unmade on fine. And they got a fully made bed. The pillow is set neatly at an angle against the frame. The blanket is stitched with heart patterns. The wooden legs are decoratively carved with fine vine patterns. 382 was hesitant to lie in the bed, complaining it being too girly, but complied with encouragement. They quickly acclimated and described it as pretty damn comfortable. 1 bed, unmade, very fine. A fully made tuck bed with elaborate detail. The pillow was pre-fluffed, the blanket has visible fine fibers, and high-quality stitching along the edges. The wooden legs have intricate carvings of sleeping angels and cherubs. The D-class personnel became unconscious within 12 seconds of lying in the bed. Medical staff removed him from the bed and determined he has become comatose, stuck in REM sleep. The D-class personnel has been put on medical support to keep him alive while we try to figure out how to wake him up. Addendum. The very fine output was confirmed to cure sleep apnea permanently at the cost of permanent REM sleep. I don't think that's curing it, that's just getting to sleep one time. Or wait, no, apnea is the thing with the breathing. So yes, it cured it because he is not breathing like that. However, he's permanently in REM sleep. I don't think the trade-off is worth it. I'll have to find another way to help my sleep apnea. The bed might make for a more humane bed for hospice, comatose terminal patients, though. We generally avoid releasing anomalous objects in the public. A zoologist. Redacted PhD belonging to said professor. As mentioned above, very fine setting. The PhD was changed from redacted to micropseudocology. The chairman is signed as Golst. The president is signed as Pekkel. The counselor is signed as No, that's not. Better. And the executive vice president was signed as. It also changed the name to Fusello. Note, I did not write that as my name, but given that I can't remember my name anymore and the PhD is being read as valid and all copies of my name have been replaced, Fusello it is. Professor Fusello. Micropseudocologist, whatever that is. Addendum. When the name on the PhD was erased, all instances of the name disappeared. Testing researcher wrote Fusello in its place, causing all records to change to Fusello. Professor Fusello then changed the profession to zoologist, since micropseudoecology does not exist, and suddenly gained knowledge of zoological topics. It didn't change any previous instances of profession. Note, before I forget, all previous instances of my name prior to the addendum was listed as that. I can't seem to be able to change it back for record-keeping sake, but I can write it in current instances. That's fun. And here's an intern. 1 mug bearing the logo of the Foundation Internship Program, 1 Foundation Containment Breach Reaction Pamphlet, 5 Foundation issued pencil sharpeners, 1 Foundation distributed pen, 1 deck of Foundation playing cards. Note, I got a bunch of swag from the internship program. They gave me like 5 of everything, so I have plenty of extras. The intern. The mug on 1-to-1. Mug with the text, the Department of Abnormalities printed. The Department of what? 1 pen on 1-to-1. 3 Foundation brand fountain ink capsules, a plastic fountain pen nib. While the Skip Foundation does have companies which create ink capsules, there are no Foundation brand ink capsules. It ruined my ink fountain pen with this. The ink was gel and clogged the pen after the second capsule. The nib was pretty nice, though. The pamphlet on fine. A small paper diorama of 682 eating researchers. Researchers report a sense of dread when viewing it. Sense of dread determined to be non-anomalous. Yeah, I should probably read 682 next. Or not. No rhyme, no reason. I just pick what I want. The 5 pencil sharpeners on fine. 1 stylized revolver pencil sharpener sharpens pencil when pencil is inserted into the barrel and the cylinder is spun. Note, neat. Deck of playing cards, very fine. 1 paper stage with a figure resembling the intern standing on a podium. Failure show is emblazoned on the back of the stage. Viewing the output results in the viewer to gain knowledge regarding a random failure related to intern and compels them to insult the intern based on that knowledge. Addendum. Item incinerated. While amnesticization proved effective at removing the compulsion to insert intern, the knowledge remained. Note, sorry for my outburst. We all make mistakes from time to time. Next time you should probably ask before taking multiple bags of supplies. Oh, and here's Fusello again. 1 faux taxidermy buckhead, 1 faux taxidermy elkhead, 1 faux taxidermy goat. Full dope, goat, not just a head. Note, the taxidermy models used do not contain biological elements. The buckhead on 1-to-1. Full body taxidermy of a large frog with faux deer fur and glassy deer eyes. The legs and arms are made of keratin from the antlers. I'm incinerating this so I don't have to look at it anymore. The taxidermy elk head. On fine. 1 taxidermy smiling human head with ivory teeth and glass elk eyes. The beard from the elk is retained while extra cloth, stuffing, and faux fur are fashioned to resemble hair. And then the goat on very fine. A bipedal taxidermy goat with an uncanny human-like face. It stands still but can be seen breathing and slightly swaying as if alive and idle, despite no lungs or vital signs. A medical residence. Winter parka, snow pants, cotton winter earmuffs. Decided to test these because this place seems a lot warmer than where I'm from, so it seems like they probably won't be needed. Also, I needed the space in my wardrobe. I'm putting them all on fine just to see what happens. The pants. 1 pair of what appears to be rain pants, 2 sizes larger than the former. The output is extremely hydrophobic to the point of repelling water within 10 centimeters of the pants. Due to the fact that this includes water within the body, they cannot be worn. Oh, wow. The parka. A visually unchanged parka. When worn, it anomalously raises the wearer's body temperature to extreme fever of 41 degrees C. This fever does not go down for 105.8 minutes. Well, I guess I know what my job is going to be after these tests. And then the earmuffs. A pair of cotton industrial earmuffs. When worn, they render the wearer temporarily completely deaf. However, ear damage can still be accumulated while worn. As the ear pads are made primarily of cotton, they are effectively useless. Oh wow. That is really... The earmuffs, basically, you put them on, and it sounds like it's completely, blocked everything. However, what it's actually done is made you deaf. So you can go to a place that has a loud sound and think that the earmuffs are working. However, in reality, they're doing basically nothing. It's just you are deaf. And so you can have your ears damaged because of the loud sound. That's dirty. Wow, these are literally all useless. I mean, I expect at least something that could be used. But I guess I have a lot to learn from this thing. Also, those pink industrial earmuffs look kind of funny. I'd keep them if they weren't anomalous. They aren't useless if you're creative how to utilize it. And why would I want to instantly give someone a possibly lethal fever? I can't think of a reason for that. Actually, no. Maybe these earmuffs would be useful for anyone dealing with veritas. Note, fever kills some viral infections. Prior to vaccines for syphilis, people would infect themselves with fever-inducing diseases to fight against syphilis. Yes, I know. I'm becoming a doctor of medicine. However, 41 degrees C is extremely dangerous. Also, we have medicine for that now. I seriously hope your doctor isn't in a medical field. We will talk about how to pack when moving in the future. Ooh, burn. Ooh, Fusello again. A poster displaying silhouettes of various amphibians. Because they're a zoologist now, don't you forget. As above mentioned, on 5. 6 Roshar. I know how to pronounce this. Rorschach. There we go. 6 Rorschach ink block test cards in a stack. Despite being ink blocks, they clearly depict a recognizable animal on each card in order: tree frog, mountain lion, rhinoceros, gazelle, maned wolf, and a flamingo. I'm going to show these to others and ask what they see on the cards. Addendum. Each card depicts a different animal per person. Despite being very clear to each person sees a very different animal. Note, the tree frog I saw on the first card was seen as an African lion by a D personnel. Even when looking at the cards simultaneously, I saw the tree frog and she saw a lion. Addendum 2. Further testing revealed that the cards depict cognitive assumptions of what an animal is to someone, such as whether it would be their favorite animal, maned wolf or Dr. Fusello. Each card seems to have a different aspect. The first card is the last animal the subject thought about before viewing the card. This is why the first card was a tree frog, as the item inserted was an amphibian's chart. Chart 2 always shows an animal the subject fears. Card 3 depicts an animal that the subject empathizes with. Subjects with psychopathy report the image just being an ink splatter. Card 4 always shows a prey animal that the subject views as strong. Card 5 depicts the subject's favorite animal, even if the subject didn't know they had one. Card 6 always shows an animal the subject has never seen in person, but has seen in videos, books, pictures, etc. Note, the gazelle is able to outrun most predators with ease. You might ask, what about zebras? They kill their predators. To which I say, zebras can't handle being overwhelmed, while a gazelle can flee for miles. Note, all of these are octopi for me. That's fun. That is fun. And I guess what's the last one you saw? Actually, let me check this. Yeah, it is getting a bit late for me. A little behind the scenes. I record these late in the night because I live near a road, so recording them during the day would be a bit noisy. Also, it's the best time for me. I record it after work. 1 horseshoe on very fine. 1 4-leaf clover made of iron. Each clove is a small horseshoe. Upon picking up, a security personnel's firearm discharged, and the bullet barely grazed a D personnel. Damn lucky that didn't hit him. The output causes unfortunate and potentially dangerous events while protecting the holder from the events it causes. including spontaneously exploding of ceramic mugs, a higher case of minor accidents related to tripping hazards, and one case negligent discharge of a weapon. The effect ceases after physical contact. Luck can't be made. Good to know. Well, clearly it can be made to the point. It's just you've got to dip in and out. Bad with the good. The medical resident back again. 6 Steel Foundation issued 1-liter water bottles. Note, time for my first very fine test. Want to start out with something relatively harmless, mainly to make my job easier and make sure nobody gets hurt. And while I'm writing, I'd like to remind everyone that these are free. You should really pick one up. It's very important to stay hydrated. Good tip, medical resident Ibarazaki. Stay hydrated. 2 water bottles on 1-to-1. One large 2-liter contain resembles models issued by the GOC. I cannot remember what the acronym is for. It's one of the competing organizations. 2 water bottles on fine. One water skin made of steel with the texture of leather. Holds 3 liters of water due to having thinner walls than the water bottles. It has foundation markings. Could I keep this? After screening, of course. 1 water bottle on fine. And it returns a 1-liter water bottle. It has a temperature dial that makes any water held within the water bottle the temperature the dial was set at. However, the dial ranges from 0K to 1000K. And due to the small size of the dial, practical use has been deemed impossible. And then a water bottle on fine. A visually similar water bottle, however, it contains a small pocket dimension that has a currently unknown volume. Whenever any item is inserted into the bottle, it immediately takes a liquid form. Regardless of the previous material's composition, tests are being undertaken to ascertain whether any of these liquids can be analyzed. But as any testing implements inserted become liquid, it seems unlikely. Turning the bottle upside down also does not drain the bottle of liquids, and as such, the only potential way to access the liquids would be to fill the bottle to capacity. What? How does that work? I feel like that has to break the laws of science somehow. So, around 2,000 liters of liquid have been added to the bottle, and its capacity has yet to be found. Due to the volume of contents inside, incineration is not recommended. The bottle has been transferred to the anomalous abatement department to investigate further applications in recycling. Good job, Ibarazaki. And once again, small figurines of various Facility 23 personnel, as well as 914 itself. I like to make these in my spare time, so if anyone wants a wax figure for a test, or just one for themselves, just ask nicely. The figure of 914 on 1-to-1, and it returns a figurine of the senior researcher Dr. Gears. That's clever. And then a figurine of Ibarazaki running in exercise wear. 1-to-1, 2 wax models of Japanese Kyogashi candy, and 1 small model of a blade prosthetic. The Kyogashi do not, however, taste like candy. That's a shame. Now I'm hungry and homesick. I hope the rest of these are better. Actually, I want to... Kyogashi. The traditional sweet of Kyoto. Literally means Kyoto sweets, appreciated through the eyes, ears, and palate. Beautiful motifs, shapes and color inspire. Each one is elegant. Okay, they don't have a specific shape, they're just... Okay, yeah. That's cool. The more you know. A figure of intern Lactee that appears to be being disciplined by somebody else. On 1-to-1, a wax tablet written in Japanese detailing intern's trial for 5 counts of petty theft, appearing to be related to the previous mistaken taking of the items of other interns from orientation, including 4 computers, Notably, the name of the prosecutor and defense attorney are Riji Mitsuguri. Yeah, I got that right. And Ruichi Naruhodo, respectively. Both being characters from the Ace Attorney game series. A wax figurine of Lucius Veritas that looks to be disciplining something. One wax model of the Ungok Veritas system, an optical system used to see the life energy of an entity or person, even through solid objects or walls. Non-functional. I promise the pose has nothing to do with the previous input. I'm definitely not still mad about getting my stuff taken. I think you are. A wax figurine of Dr. Shep working with one test tube in each hand. A wax figurine of the Pokemon Wooloo grazing. Second favorite Pokemon. Still, I love this. Figure of Director Query talking to someone else. One wax question mark. Then we got Fusella laughing, and it's a model of a Maine wolf barking. And then Boneka making a peace sign. Wax figurine of a paper crane. Ooh, that's fancy. Appears to be trying to fly, but due to the wax construction, it was unable to do. Oh, that one's on fine. I missed that. So yeah, on fine, it makes a paper crane, tries to fly, but due to the wax construction, does not. Hey, Boneka, I think you want to see this. It evoked a feeling of sadness in me. I wonder if it was a mimetic effect, but I think it's just the nature of this piece. To be modeled after a creature capable of flight, but being unable to because of one's construction, as if it is always meant to fly, and yet simultaneously could never, like it was never meant to be. It's wax. Don't read into that far. Then we got, both the intern and the medical resident, graphing calculator, 10 pages of various spreadsheets, 15 hard candies, 1 set of dumbbells, 1 bag of sword candies, 1 copy of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, 3 fountain pens. Whew. Note, in order to try to get over the whole goodie bag theft thing from a few days ago. Lacty and I are doing a joint test. Hope it goes well. I won't input what I think intern would, and Lacty will input things he thinks I would. Yep. A graphing calculator, 10 pages of spreadsheets, input by Ibarazaki on 1-to-1. 1 spreadsheet calculator, 10 pages of various graphs. The dumbbell, the bag of sword candies, and the copy of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, input by the intern, 1-to-1. 1 candy-shaped kettlebell, a bag of dumbbell-shaped candies, and a copy of Professor Layton in the Curious Village. Then on 5, we have 5 hard candies, 3 fountain pens, input by both. On 5. 1 symbol of the Foundation Medical Department made from what appears to be an alloy from the fountain pens. 1 symbol of the Foundation Department Analytics made from hard candy. Between them is a heart of a 50-50 split hard candy and fountain pen alloy. Objects incinerated by request of medical resident. Nope, I'm not letting 914 play matchmaker between us. Not happening. Dear me. 914, why would you ever suggest such a thing? Why would you do so? Alright, guys. I think we have a pretty good idea what can do with stationery. What's next? A love letter? This is getting really long. Whatever. Lots of people have tuned out by now, but this is pretty good. The intern with 3 standard Foundation distributed PCs. The internship program gave me 5 computers for some reason. I'm going to put them through some interesting settings. Don't worry. I prepared a Faraday cage and arranged for an emergency EMP. Well, I think these might... $219, 20... 310. 410. And then wax figurine was on 310. Okay, so 410. Whatever the case, one comes after the other. So, and this comes before the one. So yeah, this is the They're free. One PC on 101. A set of one laptop, one computer mouse, and one microphone. All objects are fully functional and unbranded. Laptop appears to run on SCP OS, object passed anomalous and mechanical screening, and have been relinquished to the intern. One PC on 5. 35 decks of computer-themed tarot cards made from input. Objects anomalously possess the same malleability as normal cards. Objects placed in storage are available upon request. Anyone know how to read tarot cards and give fortunes? We should run a test for anomalous properties regarding fortune outcomes with these. Yeah, it is getting long. Another water break. There we go. PC, very fine. An improved one blueprint made from melted PC amalgamation. Blueprint is believed to be for an Eingen weapon. Due to what is believed to be anti-mimetic encoding, blueprint is unreadable. Object sent to Site 41 for decoding. Upon decoding the blueprint, it was revealed that it was what was believed to be improvement actually was a minor memeplex that reads, "Stop taking stuff meant for other interns." Intern Lecte was reprimanded. Ibarzaki. Want a PC? Yes, I would like my computer back. Thank you. Also, you wrote my name wrong. Ibarazaki. Sorry, Ibarazaki. Yeah, that happened for the others. That's fun. JMTF Sergeant Jaimons. One TKS-20 Tankat. Aforementioned vehicle on very fine. After approximately 2 hours of processing, the input 914 opened its booth. The input was found to have been turned into hundreds of miniature automatons resembling Polish winged hussar cavalry, each measuring approximately 20 centimeters tall. Each rides its own horse, and they move in typical formation of a 17th century heavy cavalry group. Upon them exiting the booth, the D personnel immediately suffered multiple grievous wounds to his leg as the output attacked his ankles and brought him to his knees. Addendum. When the sergeant entered the room with on-site security forces, the output halted its attack, and the team was able to extract the personnel. It was speculated that the output responds to the sergeant's Polish descent as a sign of seniority, as they followed him in a standard marching formation when he walked further into the testing chamber. Output successfully led to the incinerator and neutralize. The personnel has been relieved of testing duties for 2 weeks to recover from his injuries. He will return after all stitches are removed. It is to note that the D personnel is of Antillean descent. The output also seems to respond positively to other Central European descent. Leading them to the incinerator was like herding cats or horses. And then 2 Latin deck enhancer systems, enhancing adapters in original sealed packaging, 2 complete sets of all 7 produced games for the Aladdin deck enhancer in original sealed packaging. Note, Camerica and Codemasters, the same companies behind the production of the Game Genie, created the Aladdin deck enhancer. It functions by plugging into the cartridge port of a NES and acting as an adapter containing all the hardware needed for NES-compatible cartridges aside from the game ROM, allowing the user to play unlicensed games produced by Camerica and Codemasters on cheaper compact cartridges. The company had 24 games planned, but only 7 were finished before Camerica went bankrupt. Neither the Aladdin deck enhancer nor its finished games were officially released, instead entering the market through inventory liquidation. Well, that's fun to know. If that's real. Like, there's nothing. Paste and go. Yep, okay, looks like that's real. Just from a. Yeah, okay, cool. And unreleased games, yeah, okay. Learn something new every day. Oh, the birds. What time is it? Ooh, yeah. Okay, yeah. That's why there's birds. That's one reason why I don't record too late, because there are birds around, and yeah. The complete set of all 7 games in the original packaging. 7 unproduced games for the deck enhancer, in packaging matching the style of the 7 released. 2 of the include games, MiG-28 Soviet Fighter and Big Nose the Caveman, matched games that were announced. Hit the joystick. Were announced but remained unreleased. The other 5 games, Molly's Miserable Monday, Treasure Quest, Zorkman, Rubble Racing Rumble, and The Great Pinch, match nothing announced for the project. They've all been tested. They match the quality level of the released games, by which I mean they are poorly made. The system itself, the adapter itself, and original seed packaging on very fine. One NES version game, Genie, made from the materials of the Aladdin deck enhancer. The output is non-functional. The item has an anomalous effect, allowing it to grant wishes to the person interacting with it through use of illusion. The D class being used to interact with the object mentioned that they wished they had a cold one. The D class immediately perceived themselves as holding a chilled alcoholic beverage in their free hand and began to drink it. They then wished they could go home and had their perception massively altered, leaving themselves transported to an old residence. When the senior researcher Townsend removed the output from their grip, their perception returned to normal. The D personnel reacted violently to being brought back, and due to unplanned change in my own perception, I was momentarily disarmed and incapable of self-defense. The remainder of the test was derailed and had to be resumed the following day. The output has been moved to anomalous storage, pending further testing at a later date. The complete set of all 7 produced games in the original sealed packaging, fine setting, a single thick cartridge in a large labeled package. The cartridge superficially matches that of a Nintendo 64. The packaging states that the game contained within is Baby's Day Out. Testing on the cartridge has proven it is compatible with the Nintendo 64 and that the game is a functional 2D platformer wherein the player controls an angelic being. A video game adaptation of Baby's Day Out, a comedic movie, had been planned and completed for the Sega Genesis, Super NES, and Game Boy, but was never released. No copies of the finished game have ever turned up, so I cannot conclusively say whether or not this output is a port of the same game. And back to the enhancer itself, very fine. A Comerica branded device that plugs into the cartridge port of a NES and acts as an adapter for the Nintendo 64 cartridges, allowing them to be played through the NES. That's fun. The graphical quality and processing speed of games played with this device are downgraded to be compatible with the NES. The game structure is also significantly altered, often becoming 2C side-scrollers or top-down games. When it was initially plugged into a NES for testing, a pair of concealed locking mechanisms extending, rendering it permanently attached to the cartridge port. Note, this item and attached NES will be kept in anomalous storage. Access can be granted for research purposes if anyone on site acquires new N64 cartridges, provided I can sit in for observation. I'm concerned for Townsend's well-being after the events that took place at the end of the second test. He's been acting exceptionally disoriented and has a noticeable delay when responding to queries, but he insisted that anesthetics are not necessary. What did you see that unsettled you so, Townsend? Then medical resident. 10 paper hats, boats folded from pink A4 paper. These are fairly easy origami pieces. For the sake of documentation, they will be recorded as hats when the point is pointing up and boats when it is pointing down. Hat, rough. 7 crumpled balls of torn paper. Boat, rough. 1 pile of paper shreds, appearing to have been cut by scissors. Hat, coarse. A cube of paper, 1 small puddle of ink. Pinky. Boat, coarse. Unfolded piece of paper. Hat, 1-to-1. Small pair of origami shoes. Due to the fact that each shoe is folded from a piece of paper half the size of A4, they are effectively unwearable. Boat, 1-to-1. Plain. Hat, fine. An origami top hat made with what appears to be a peacock feather on the brim. Ooh, that's fancy. The boat, fine. A paper diorama, HMS Titanic, and a small iceberg. Hat, very fine. One paper cloth mannequin wearing a paper hat is emblazoned with a cognito hazard that compels people try to buy the hat off of the mannequin. However, it is inanimate. This is not possible, and as such, the subject gives up after 5 minutes. Note, the hat looked weirdly stylish at the time. I didn't even question that the hat was 1 inch tall. Boat, very fine. Origami model of the HSWMS Gotland, a Swedish attack submarine, rolled out of the output booth and onto the ground as if it was liquid. Submarine dove below the surface before recovery was possible and looked to be traveling at 20 knots on an intercept course for a Russian Kilo-class submarine, currently gathering intelligence in Swedish waters. The location of the submarine was tracked via multiple sonar pings given off anomalously by the submarine. Upon reaching the Atlantic Ocean, these stopped, probably as a result of the submarine dissolving due to its paper construction. Ooh, we got links in this one. A recreation Fabergé egg. Fabergé eggs. I enjoy those. A link between 914 and Russian goldsmith and jeweler Peter Carl Fabergé was suggested in Incident Report 914-2000 Charles Fabergé was most known for his creation of the Fabergé eggs. What was that? Okay, previous research log. Fair enough. This test attempts to garner further information towards this potential link by using a modern recreation of the Fabergé egg, as an original Fabergé egg would cost an upward of millions of USD. The expense for this test has been cleared with a special permission from Director of Research Dr. Janet Query and Facility Director Dr. Arthur Hackett. Due to the cost of this recreation Fabergé egg, tests will not be performed below the very fine setting. The egg on very fine, in unchanged... Oop. Okay, that's good to know. Didn't mean to press that. An unchanged recreation of the egg. The time spent processing the item was considerably longer than usual 5 to 10 minutes. It normally takes to refine an output. At 43 minutes elapsed until output was received. The output was thoroughly inspected for visual differences compared to image taken before processing. In both the recreation Fabergé eggs opened and closed state to discern any differences. No differences were found between the output and the input. This test will be performed once more, with the output from this test being used as the input, the next due to the object being seemingly unchanged. Once again, very fine, unchanged. The time spent processing the item was 1 hour and 12 minutes. Output thoroughly inspected for visual differences to the original recreation Fabergé egg. No differences found. Item also placed within an on-site X-ray and ultrasound machine. You can tell I've been reading for a while. My words are starting to stumble over themselves as they try to get out. To get a non-destructive look at the internals of the output. All mechanisms inside the egg are in line with the expected internals of the original output. Repeat it once more. Unchanged, 1 hour and 43 minutes, thoroughly inspected, a trend in forming in which is taking longer to process. However, no changes spotted, so why is it taking so long? Test will be repeated. 2 hours and 57. Once again, 3 hours and 34. The rate of change in time elapsed processing does not appear to be constant. Further investigation required. Are you sure that's a good idea? Seems to be building up to something ominous. 5 hours and 21. Test will repeat. Almost immediately upon turning the key on 914 to process the item, the output door opened to show an unchanged recreation. A lot of change in the elapsed time. Even though the object's still unchanged. To further investigate, we'll repeat it. 914 began to process this. The output door slammed open, revealing the egg. Why this change in the status quo? No changes have been made to the output throughout this test. This is not in line with behavior observed by 914 in the past. Almost always the output has been noticeably different from the input, especially when it's set to very fine. A notable exception being made for this test. Previous output, unknown setting. 1 minute into processing, the gears on 914 stopped moving abruptly. The dial on 914 turned counterclockwise away from very fine over the other settings to rough, then past the rough setting. 914 gears then began to turn once more. Time elapsed was exactly 5 minutes, during which loud rattling noises could be heard emanating from 914. After the output door opened, the input was found to have become a pulverized pile of the same mass as the original input. 914 setting knobs cannot normally be turned past rough. Input was dropped before being placed into the 914 by participating D-class personnel. My only explanation for the behavior of 914 is that the input was physically damaged by impact. Why would 914 react like this? This test will not be continued, as I do not have another $60,000 in my testing budget for a second recreation of Fabergé eggs, and I see no point in refining what has essentially become very expensive dust. That's fun. 5 last generation standard anomalous object storage lockers. Apparently the maintenance guys were replacing all the outdated storage lockers for 914's outputs. So I asked if I could have 5 of them to test. Apparently the new ones are with card scanners that can be connected to the clearance level database automatically. Anyway, I don't actually know what to expect from this, so here it goes. Rough, a pile of slag. Coarse, storage locker that shows signs of being forced open. Booby-trapped in a way that made spikes fall out when opened, but these caused no harm to any personnel and no other differences were encountered. Locker, or storage locker, gym locker on 1-1. On fine, a storage locker that automatically assigns a clearance level required to open when an object is placed within, with important outputs being prioritized. It also automatically opens when a person of sufficient clearance attempts to open it. However, 914's idea of significant clearance different from the Foundation's, with certain people being favored over others. For example, G-class personnel are automatically given level 4 clearance. Site Director Hackett, Research Director Query, and Human Resource Director Veritas have level 2 clearance. Intern Lacti and R. Ibarazaki have level 3. All standard researchers have level 1. And solely maintenance technician Johnson has been found to possess level 5 clearance. It is assumed that the O5 council members would have level 0. On very fine, a visually unchanged storage locker. Whenever any item is placed within, they appear to fall into a pocket dimension. Laser range finding has found a depth of 3 kilometers, but visual estimates show around 300 meters, leading to the belief that the speed of light is 10 times slower within. Any anomalous objects of mass below about 3.3 kilograms placed within lose their anomalous properties, while any above that switch it for a seemingly random anomalous property, and any non-anomalous objects placed within gain an anomalous ability. What is it with me and weird pocket dimensions? Anyway, testing was discontinued after 24 minutes after one of the testing analysts became an extremely heavy emitter of beta radiation. So again, this thing is rather useless. Also, the emitter was immediately thrown into the box after that, so we should probably keep it closed. Now, paper shredders. Rough. The remains of a paper shredder appear to have been shredded by a paper shredder. A 1-to-1, and we get a large blender. Fine. One 914 brand paper atomizer, made with various clockwork elements. When used, it releases the atoms of the paper destroyed into the surrounding air. As such, use is not recommended to prevent lung damage. Honestly, I think it wouldn't be that bad. And then on very fine, one paper shredder does not need an external power source. Shredder anomalously is able to destroy anything thin enough to be placed into the shredder slot, and then combust all flammable items within. The energy gained from doing so appears to power the paper shredder, with excess energy being deposited into the surrounding area. All remains that cannot be burnt further are then teleported to the researcher Dr. Query's desk. Oh no, I'm getting my testing license revoked, aren't I? No, but Dr. Veritas did let me know that it's standard procedure to deduct any damages from the salary of the causer. So, prepare for that. A junior researcher, or I just don't remember the name. It's not one of the common ones we've been coming across. 2 USB drives containing the game files for EVE Online, a spaceship game with an intricate market system based on real-life stock markets. Just got assigned here, might as well start things off with a bang. The USB drive on fine. Certified public accountant license made out to Tempest, and no expiry date. The license is made out of plastic case of the USB, with lettering done in circuitry and decorative emblems and green circuit board. Can I use this as a real license? I need you to think about that question. Maybe say it out loud to yourself. And then on Very Fine, a USB drive, game files replaced with a text file titled 914's Technical Analysis of the Financial Markets. When read by the D-Class personnel, subject requested access to stock market trading terminal. When refused, subject started screaming about how blank was going to take a 40-point dive and wished to quickly short the stock. A simulated trading environment was set up and provided to the subject. Of note, blank dropped 40 points 30 hours following the experiment. USB placed in anomalous storage. Perhaps we should give this book to our accounting department? Tempest, we're a research facility, not an insider trading ring. Then we've got Joseph Carpenter, a researcher. 1 black analog style wristwatch. The watch on Very Fine. 1 stylized analog wristwatch that can speed up or slow down the user's perception of time, as well as freeze them in time. The ticking of the watch is noticeably louder and has an added echo. The watch's crown appears to have been separated into 3 smaller, identical versions of itself. D43762 was observed to move at an abnormal speed after pulling out the top crown, and at far slower speed after pulling the middle crown. Subsequently, the D personnel reported that pulling the top crown caused them to perceive the world at a far faster pace, while pulling the middle crown caused them to perceive the world at a much slower pace. After the D personnel was instructed to pull out the lowest watch crown, all of the personnel's movements ceased immediately. Attempts at gaining the personnel's attention were completely unsuccessful. Their entire body, including extremities such as hair, were completely immovable, and a medical examination revealed that his vitals were frozen. Attempts to push the crown back in were made, but proved to be futile. Whether or not this is due to anomalous effects having impact on the output itself, or the personnel's unmalleable grip on the core, is unknown. After a 24-hour examination period without any changes, was deemed brain dead. Output and D have been incinerated. You and I are going to talk about research management. That made me think of a book I haven't thought of in a long while. I am sorry, this is going to be a bit of a book. Was this the... No, I don't... No, this isn't the author I was thinking of. No, that's not the one. Galactic Piggy? That's... No. No, that's not it. Okay. Oh god, I am completely blanking on the book series or the author. Maybe if you've come this far, maybe you can help me. Oh god. Am I getting it mixed up with another book by the same author? Or a different author? The story is that this guy has a gearbox thing that allows him to speed up and slow down his own personal time. And it has, like, vines growing from it, I think. Or the uncle has it, and then the person finds it. And I think this is the same story. The main character goes into, like, this weird subdimension or, like, alternate space, and there are mechanical or just metal, like, insectoids, sharp spider claw things, and there's, like, a swing. And I'm sorry if this is being very, very non-descriptive. God, I can't. I think it's the same author that did the another book I can't remember the name of. Wow, I'm completely blanking on this. I read a lot of their books. I really love their books. It's really a shame that I can't think of it. How about I? Oh God, I can. It's and the box that. Let's just I can't waste any more time on it. The recording time is saying 2 hours 17 minutes, so won't be quite that long. Hopefully not. But let's finish this one. Okay, yeah, this is the last one for this selection, so I think we aren't going to do any more. Like I said, if you want to hear more after all this rambling, you can definitely leave it in the comments below. So, medical residence, 5 mathematical equations on A4 paper, 5 pens. Input, equation 5x minus 2, parentheses 3 minus x, parentheses equals 4 on A4 paper with the pen, rough. The equation 3 plus 7 equals 37 on a piece of shredded A4 paper. The equation 4 parentheses 2x minus 3 parentheses equal 24 on A4 paper, pen, coarse. All the numbers and symbols in ranged order from greatest to least, each on 1 paper scrap, 1 disassembled pen. The equation 3x plus 7 equals 22 on A4 paper, 1 pen, on 1 to 1. The answer x equals 5 on A5 paper. Paper is twice as thick. Interesting. Oh, A4 and A5. Yeah. Yeah, I know. And then the equation x squared minus 4x minus 5 equals 0 on A4 paper, 1 pen. Setting fine. 1 paper origami hypercube. That's fun. How does that work? My eyes hurt. The equation 3x minus 5 equals 2x plus 7. A4 paper, 1 pen. Very fine. The mathematical equation for 1 female grizzly bear on A4 paper, which is a SCP. All involved personnel have been amnesticized, except for me, till I finish writing this incident report. About to head to the medical bay now. It's my first anesthetician working here. I've heard it's not pleasant, so I'm really sorry about this. Take the afternoon off. The headache and drowsiness will take a good part of your day. Research Director, query. And, yeah, there are the 2 more logs, which I am not going to be reading unless this is really short. Oh, no, I'm not going to read it. I said I wasn't going to read it. You saw it there. These are fun. But yeah. I am 220 on the... Oop. Turned off my controller. Whoo, boy. Clearly, I have a lot more that I could read this if you want me to. I am perfectly fine with that. However, I think going forward, I would limit to hours at a time. Good golly, Miss Molly. Yeah, if you can tell me what the dang title of that book is. The mechanical cube that affects your time. It has vines growing out of it. The uncle has one that has had one for a while, and it's like, why the house is viney. They go into... There's a box that you go into, and there's the insectoid crab, spidery robot. Maybe not robot. Or are they metal? I'm not sure. I remember them being like a silver color on the cover of the book. And it's either in that book or another book by the same... I think it's just another book by the same author, where they find out that the doghouse in the back is a time dilation thing, and two twins find it, and they go in and come out and they do weird stuff with it. But then the one is like... Or maybe it's not twins, and it's just the one that's younger than the other, and it's just like, we want to... And there's something coming. And they're like... The one is like, we want to be not the same person anymore, like different ages and stuff. And so the one decides on their own, and they just go and stay in it overnight for the real world night. And they come out as like, as an adult. Which is really a horror of its own. But yeah. If you know what in the world I'm talking about, because I distinctly remember these books, but I can't remember their name at all, or the author, which isn't weird. Normally I'm better with book names, but authors, I'm horrible with people's names. Anyway, before this becomes 2 hours and 30 minutes on the record time, let's finish this off. If you've made it here, I feel you are obligated at this point to press the like button, because my goodness, I do not know how you put up with my rambling over all these things. Besides that, subscribe, because obviously I'm okay with reading just an absolute ton. And do comment if you want me to read more of these. Subscribe, ring the bell, because YouTube hates telling you when people you subscribe to do stuff. This is Akhier, and I'm signing off.